want to talk about the beauty of failing. Because a lot of people won't go after the stuff that they want because they're afraid to fail. And they look at failing as a bad thing, while failing is really, really good. Because you learn more from your failures than from your successes. Because success isn't really painful, but failure is. And you learn a lot more, you make adjustment quicker. So let me get into this idea that I speak about a lot. And it's basically, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started in order to be great. Now, what I mean by that, when I first got involved in going to the poetry club and the spoken word clubs and performing, I would sneak out of work. At 7 o'clock, I told this story before, I would sneak out of work and go to the Brooklyn Moon Cafe in New York. It was on Fulton Street, I believe it was Fulton Street. They started about 10:30, but in order to perform, you had to put your name on the list. And you had to be there about 9:30 to get a decent spot in the list. So I would call and ask them, listen, I'm going to be there. Can you write my name up? Can you just put my name on the list? I'm definitely going to be here. No, you have to be here. So I would show up and put my name on the list. And when I put my name on the list, I would put my name to be 3rd or 4th or 5th, real early in the night. And usually once they get started, they have about maybe 75 or 100 people. It's a small room, but it will be packed. 75, 100 people, but I wasn't known. So they would call the list, call the names on the list, and just skip over me. And they wouldn't put me on that stage until about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning when everyone left, and maybe there were about 3 people there left. Then they would call me Kirk Nugent, even though I've been there since 9 o'clock, sneaking out of work, getting in trouble to be here. This was part of the nonsense that I had to deal with. This was part of the foolishness. Now, I would get on the mic and I would be so scared. Back then I would read my poem off a sheet of paper. And I would hold the paper and you could literally see me shaking, and you could see my clothes vibrating, the pants of my legs shaking. I was scared. And I would just read the little poem and I would get off stage. And people would, the 3 people that were there, they would applaud. And I would work on getting better till it got to a point where I could get on stage, memorize my stuff, and just close my eyes and did my poem. I sucked. I wasn't good. As a matter of fact, the way that I got into memorizing my poem, one day I saw a guy, he went on stage, and he knew his poem off the top of his head. And it was, back then to me, that was a long poem. It was like maybe 2.5 minutes. And I'm like, oh my God. So I went outside and I said to him, how do you memorize such a long poem? That was over 2 minutes. And he said to me, yo son, when you locked up and you in cell block B and they move you to cell block C, yo son, sometimes you don't get to take your stuff. So you got to keep it in the dome, you know what I mean? So I figured, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So I started memorizing my stuff, and back then to memorize a poem that was 2 minutes long, to me was a long time. Now my average poem is about maybe 5 or 6 minutes before I even get warmed up. And I know all of them off the top of my head. So the point is, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. And you can't be afraid of failing. When I went to the Brooklyn Moon, I went to all the poetry cafes in New Jersey, and they did the same thing. I wasn't known. I got there early, put my name on the mic, on the list, and they wouldn't bring me on until the last 2 people were left. But I kept getting better, that the audience, the 3 people that were left, next week they would say, oh no, put Kirk on, put Kirk on. And the other people in the audience, well, we want to know who's this Kirk dude. And I would start rocking, I would get better and better. After a while, I started going to New Eurekan Poetry Cafe. That's one of the biggest poetry houses in the country. If you can make it in New Eurekan, you can make it anywhere. Went there, within 6 months, I won their Grand Slam Championship. That's the highest honor you can get from the New Eurekan. Won that championship. The average person takes about 2 or 3 years to win that. I won it in six months. So after a while, the people from the Brooklyn Moon started asking me, well, Kirk, what can we do to get you to come back to Brooklyn Moon? Nothing. Because I don't go where I'm tolerated, I go where I'm celebrated. So the thing is, to find your passion, don't worry about looking bad, because we have to fail our way to success. The mistakes that I made me better. The first show, the first time a college booked me to do a show, it was for an hour, and they paid me $800. That was big bucks back then as far as I'm concerned. $800 for an hour? Dude, I got you. Took this gig, no idea what I'm doing, showed up, they put me on stage, there's a huge clock in the back of the hall, and I'm on stage. They brought me up, the clock said 7 o'clock. I got on stage, I did every poem that I knew, I told every joke, I did every shout outs that I knew, and when I was done, I looked at the clock, it was 7:10. I still had 40 minutes to go, with no material. You have to fail your way to success. They never brought me back, by the way. But that was just some of the stuff that I had to learn and go through. And if I wasn't willing to take those failures, there's no way I'll be here with you now explaining how you go through it. So don't worry about the battle scars. I talk about that in one of my poems. Don't worry about the battle scars. Take them willingly, learn from them, and keep moving. Because as you keep moving, you're making progress. And as you make progress, sooner or later, I said this before, maybe 2 or 3 days ago, if you love something enough, it will begin to reveal its secrets to you. And all of a sudden, I understood, okay, in order to be successful, this is what I need to do. That's what I need to do. And do your own thing. Be your own person. That's so important. Be unique. God did not put you here to be like everybody else. When I started writing my poems, and they started getting longer, because, you know, I'm a deep brother. I've got more to express. People started, oh, Kirk Nugent got them long poems, because I'm supposed to be 3 minutes. That's what the Poetry Era says. But look at this. The Poetry Club pays you about $50, if that much, to come and perform your 3 minutes. But if I'm a speaker and I can do the same thing that the average speaker is doing in an hour and tell that story in 5 minutes, in 7 minutes, make it more entertaining, make it rhyme, the audience is more receptive, and now they pay you $3,000, $5,000. So being that I was unique and I stuck to what was in me, I never tried to edit my poem and cut it down to fit a time clock. I did what was inside of me. And being that I did that, the poetry circle laughed and ridiculed me. Kirk with these long poems. But none of them ever stepped out of their comfort zone and made a living doing what I'm doing. They're still there trying to figure it out, trying to say, oh, Kirk Nugent, he's lucky. He got a break. Some agent found him. No, 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 no. I was willing to bet on me. And that's what you've got to do. Take everything that you have and bet on you. And once you bet on you and you stay the course, you're bound to win, because God did not create any failures. You've got success in you. You have it within you. And you just have to stick with it and work with it and bring it out. And that's all you need. So we'll talk more, keep coming back. As a matter of fact, start sharing these videos. If you know someone who could use the message, just send them the link, send them the video, and you never know who you're touching, because I really believe in paying stuff forward. If I find something and it moves me, I pay it forward, because the universe has a way of just blessing you in some incredible ways that you cannot even begin to fathom. So pay it forward. I see you guys tomorrow. Love you.